Ahoy folks, Craig signing in for Pure Xbox with one very big question. What do we want? Well, for me, I want an Xbox native handheld device that I can take with me on the go. When do I want that? Roughly 20 years ago. Of course, we thought our dreams were finally coming true with the launch of the Steam Deck. However, Valve were pretty quick to put a Linux-shaped hole in that dream. Yes, this big beefy boy is not compatible with the Xbox PC Game Pass app. So just as we Xbox folk were coming to terms with a life spent indoors, we heard about a Steam Deck competitor, the ASUS ROG Ally. It's ASUS, right? I keep wanting to say ASOS, but I am not buying my clothes from this. The ROG Ally is a handheld gaming PC that runs on Windows 11. And get this, it's an officially third-party licensed Xbox handheld console that has enough power to run all of your favorite AAA games while you're on the go. Do we have a device to fill the Xbox void in our hearts? Let's find out. There's no immediate wow factor when unboxing the ROG Ally. It arrives neatly and minimally presented in a box separated into 3 sections. One for information booklets, one for the charging block and kettle lead, and one for the device itself. Inside the lid, which could very easily be missed, is a thick cardboard dock. Despite its simplicity, what ASUS has delivered is a fully recyclable package from the inside out. For a sector often critiqued for its excessive creation of, unnecessary stuff, I found its design both refreshing and thoughtful. However, as a millennial, I will undoubtedly hoard this box and its components to satisfy the voice in my head telling me that I will definitely need it someday.
In one corner, weighing a total of 668 grams, is the Steam Deck. And in the other corner, brand new to the ring, weighing at 608 grams, we have the ASUS ROG Ally.
But seriously, these guys are both in the same weight class. However, when it comes to gaming over a prolonged period of time, that 60-gram difference is really a difference. The ROG Ally is skinnier than you might expect, with lower corners that curve inwards, helping it rest at the base of your palms. Its polycarbonate chassis is comfortable enough, feeling both premium and deliberate. There's no rattling or movement from within the casing either, except during the intentional haptic feedback vibration, which was a pleasant surprise. Something I immediately loved about the ROG Ally is its controller layout is somewhat reminiscent to that of an Xbox controller. The offset analog sticks, the ABXY buttons, and the D-pad all have that Xbox feel to it that if you play constantly on your Xbox console, it just feels like meeting and greeting an old friend in your hands. Another cool feature is the prominent Series X and S view and menu buttons, which, do a great job at solidifying this as an officially third-party licensed Xbox thingy-majig. Still, it's not without its gripes. The front bumpers feel slightly awkward to reach and the grips are a bit shallow. It's not my comfiest handheld device, but for its size, it's much more manageable than the Steam Deck, especially for those with smaller hands. One thing I will immediately say is I'm not a fan of the choice of color. I worry for what Doritos hands and just general hand gunk will do to a white console over time, and I get it. I'm gross, you're gross, we're all gross, and ultimately the victim in this will be this handheld device and its grooves and stuff. Now we know what to expect when it's in our hands, let's talk about this thing, the big old screen in the middle. The ROG Ally's 7-inch IPS touchscreen panel is the same size as the Steam Deck, but where Valve's 800 by 1280 screen underwhelms, ASUS have packed a 120Hz Full HD 1080 by 1920 panel, which instantly elevates the handheld experience. Coated by Gorilla Glass, Victus, and DXE, the image quality is sublime. It's deep, vibrant, and easily viewable outdoors. What's most impressive is a max brightness of 500 nits, compared to the 400 nits offered by the Steam Deck. But with great reward comes great sacrifice. Of course, a high refresh rate screen is going to drain the 40-watt battery that's housed within this. So if you're looking to extend your playtime, the option to adjust your refresh rate from 120Hz to 60Hz is easily accessible. So it genuinely feels pretty good. The screen is absolutely fantastic, but how does it sound? Well, the ROG Ally handles its audio through 2 Dolby Atmos speakers on the front here, and I've gotta say, they're pretty darned incredible. The range and rich sound texture deliver far beyond what I've come to expect of handheld consoles. At 40% volume, the ROG Ally did a good job of accidentally convincing me I was listening at 100%. I actually had to double check because if you push it to 100, it really does get very, very loud. It's genuinely aggressive. Can you even hear me? Seriously, I'm gonna take this thing to a rave. Although I'm not going to go to a rave, I will instead use it to drown out the extended family telling me that I should go and get a real job instead of playing games. Look at me now, Uncle Derek. Look at me now. An immediately distinctive feature is the customizable light rings around both joysticks. By default, they're a soothing radio gradient, but you can also set them to a static, breathing, or strobing effect, as well as many, many more. You can also turn them off entirely. Dual intakes line the top of the device alongside a 3.5mm input jack, micro SD card slot. Also has volume buttons, a power button, which also works as a pretty cool fingerprint reader, so you can sign in with just a boop. A USB Type-C and unique PCIe connector combo. The PCIe interface can connect the ROG Ally to the XG Mobile external GPU, providing extra power thanks to a RTX 1490 laptop GPU. We'd say more about it, but we didn't get one to play with, so I'm not going to. The ROG Ally's thermal solution is pretty impressive. According to ASUS, the embedded dual fan systems output around 20 decibels in performance mode, and you know what? I believe it. I do. Although their position leaves a little bit to be desired. Sitting almost exactly where my fingertips rest, I had a serious case of clammy hands after the Ally expelled some of that heat. Now I'll get into the performance modes later on, but in turbo mode, this little creature here can get up to 80 degrees Celsius internally, so it does get quite warm, but it does a good job of pushing it out onto your clammy fingers. The ASUS ROG Ally is a Windows 11 device. Fundamentally, it's a gaming PC dressed up as a handheld console. We're happy that it satisfies all of our Xbox gaming needs. But, of course, you can run most clients, games, and programs that you'd normally boot up on your desktop or laptop. The unit we were sent to review is powered by an AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme chipset, featuring 8 cores, 16 threads, and 16GB of RAM, which is pretty decent for a handheld device. The Ally features 4 built-in operating modes, including Windows. But we'll just focus on the 3 gaming modes: Performance, Turbo, and Silent. Having so many options is great, but it can also be quite overwhelming. So let's break it down. Turbo mode maximizes power to the CPU and GPU. You can expect high frame rates, graphic fidelity, and peak optimization, ideal for high-performance gaming sessions. Next up is Performance mode, a balancing act between performance, temperature, and fan decibel levels, providing the most well-rounded experience, and that's ideal for longer gaming sessions on the go. And lastly, silent mode, which limits CPU and GPU power, keeping noise levels to a minimum, sometimes turning the dual fan system off completely, which is ideal for movies, cloud-based game services, and light gaming. To put this into perspective, we booted Gears 5's campaign to compare the three modes. Silent mode provided us with 15 to 25 FPS, performance mode achieved a modest 45 to 80 FPS, whilst turbo hit a near consistent 55 to 90 FPS. If none of these suit your needs, then you can also manually configure your own in Armory Crate. So, let's talk Command Center. We love that you're only ever one button away from a pile of customizable options ranging from operating modes, input controls, monitoring real-time data, an FPS limiter, and much more. We particularly loved being able to switch between desktop, mouse and keyboard, and gamepad controls quickly. After testing out Total War Warhammer 3 and assigning hotkeys to the macro bumpers on the back of the console, we found it to be playable, although slightly laborious. Continuously clicking the right analog stick in whilst moving it in any direction to select my army is kinda tricky. We'd be doing you a disservice if we didn't mention that we did experience a few command center crashes while testing out the device. But overall, when it worked, it made for easy performance and battery management. The ROG Ally's Armory Crate application streamlines digital storefronts like Xbox Game Pass, Steam, GOG, and the Epic Games Launcher, so you can quickly access your library of titles. Whether you've installed Gears 5 via the Xbox app, Warhammer 40k Darktide through Steam, or Cyberpunk 2077 from the Epic Games Launcher, you'll find every game and application in one place. Xbox PC Game Pass's application is responsive, well integrated, and super easy to navigate thanks to the Ally's 7-inch touchscreen panel. We actually didn't encounter any issues when installing at least 10 of our favorite games. To add to that, Xbox Play Anywhere feature has never felt more at home than it does on the ASUS ROG Ally. Gone are the days of battling over the TV when the handheld equivalent is just as, if not more, visually appealing. Shifting between screens is easier than ever. What I'm sure will have the Steam Deck quaking in its boots is there's nothing stopping you from running Steam in big picture mode, essentially emulating SteamOS without being limited by it. Xbox PC Game Pass feels great on the Ally. We still have the option to play games through Xbox Cloud Gaming, but installing titles straight to the NVMe 512GB SSD allows us to play our favorite Xbox games on the go without having to worry about a stable internet connection. As a reviewer who lives in a remote part of the UK, this matters. ASUS sent us the ROG Ally Extreme unit, but there is also the base configuration unit. At the time of writing this review, we haven't had any confirmation as to how much either device will cost. We only know that they will be less than $1,000. We anticipate that they'll fall in the higher price bracket as both models run a brand new AMD processor from the Ryzen Z1 series, designed specifically for Windows-powered handheld devices. Both Ryzen Z1 and Z1 Extreme chipsets feature AMD's Zen 4 CPU cores and RDNA 3 graphics. Their processors are impressive too. The Ryzen Z1 features 6 cores and 12 threads, while the Z1 Extreme adds extra punch with 8 cores and 16 threads. The final difference between the two is the size of their retrospective NVMe SSDs. The base ROG Ally rocks a modest 256GB SSD, while the Extreme variant houses a roomy 512GB SSD. Ultimately, if you're looking for a more powerful handheld than the Steam Deck, both ROG Ally variations will just do the job. From our experience with the ROG Ally Extreme, AAA games are mostly playable at a high graphics preset if that's your priority. The battery in both configurations is 40 watts, which may fare better in the base model because the Ryzen Z1 Extreme is a power-hungry chipset. Assuming you have a stable internet connection, you could offset the ROG Ally's hefty chip by letting Xbox Cloud Gaming do some of the heavy lifting and shift the console into silent mode. This will give you roughly around 3 to 5 hours of gaming time. Running a game like Gears 5 at full whack will drain the battery within an hour, making it a less than ideal option for gaming on the go. If you're up for toggling a few screen and power settings before shifting the Ally into performance mode, you can expect to enjoy 2 to 4 hours worth of native game time. If the fight was purely based on sheer gaming power, the ROG Ally would have the Steam Deck in a figure 4 leg lock. The Ally's design is comfortable, accomplished, and striking with an overall premium feel to it. The ROG Ally's conscious mirroring of an Xbox controller configuration and integration of PC Game Pass are so welcome. At long last, Xbox players have a third-party handheld device that really delivers. But I'm gonna be real. Its Dolby Atmos speakers and 120Hz IPS panel are truly sensational. I'd go as far as to say it provides the best viewing experience of any handheld console I've ever played by far. What we've got to talk about is battery life. For all of its strengths, users feel somewhat discouraged from embracing all of the ASUS ROG Ally has to offer through fear of draining the battery too quick. If you're looking for a handheld console to take on road trips, holidays, or camping, we're not convinced the battery would see you through a single night, even in silent mode. However, if you're regularly fighting your family for the use of the TV, want to play through lunch breaks on long-haul flights, or in any situation where you can access a power outlet, the ASUS ROG Ally truly is an impressive piece of kit that we feel is, without a doubt, the best handheld console on the market for gamers whose digital library favors Microsoft. Well, there you have it. That's our review. I hope you enjoyed the video, and remember to do all of the video stuff like, comment, and subscribe. And be sure to check out purexbox.com for all of the latest Xbox news, reviews, and previews. And that's it. As for now, Craig signing off. Cheerio.